currently in Vancouver, Canada in mid-February 2021. I've just entered Canada and a couple days ago I just flew from Auckland, New Zealand. So I just wanted to talk about, I guess I'm gonna get, and I have been getting quite a few questions from people about entering Canada and what it's like to fly right now and during the new rules. I just wanted to talk about that in this video. Now, February 2021, I found myself in a place where I had to leave New Zealand. It wasn't probably the greatest idea to travel around to some other countries in the meantime, so I decided to come back to North America or come back home. New Zealand's philosophy was they went hard and they went strong very early on. Being an island country, they closed off the borders, I think, to international visitors, even starting in late March, which was aggressive, but at the same time it worked really well. And so I guess being stuck in New Zealand wasn't a bad thing. It was a beautiful, beautiful country and it was super amazing. The travel has opened up immensely, and pretty much it has been almost back to normal for quite some time. You can go everywhere, you can do anything, and I just had to remember to scan the app. It was really important to kind of have a little travel diary of where I was going, be a little bit more vigilant at times when traveling, and it was a necessity to wear a face covering on public transit, whether it be a domestic flight or a public bus. The booking options during February 2021 are very far and in between. So there might be quite a few flights available to book on websites or directly with airlines, but I would call some of these flights almost like fake flights, because they're actually there to book and they're actually thinking of going, but when the time comes or when it comes closer to the flight, a lot of them are still being canceled or not yet flying at all. The best indication of a flight that was actually going to go was the ones that were actually flying out of New Zealand, and there were very few. There's only pretty much, I had two options flying through Hong Kong on Cathay Pacific. I was only going once a week on Sundays. Through LA, it was only going twice a week, so it wasn't really that many flights to choose from. So if you actually missed your flight from Cathay, it would be another week till I could actually fly again. So there's a couple kind of new rules that have been implemented from various government organizations or countries that have kind of shaped how I was traveling back. In early January 2021, the Canadian government as well as the US, they are requiring a pre-departure COVID test with negative result before you fly, and it has to be within a 72-hour window. This 72-hour window were quite different, I guess, depending on the country. So some countries, your pre-departure negative COVID test needs to be swabbed or taken within 72 hours of you departing your first flight. But for Canada, you actually had to have the test taken the 72-hour window within your scheduled departure time of your actual flight that is going to be entering Canada. So if you're making 3 or 4 connections, it's pretty much the last flight that you have to be within that 72-hour window. It was kind of a risk if I took the flight through Los Angeles, just because if I had to overnight in LA, then I would have to find a hotel, but also I might have had to also get another COVID test in Los Angeles and then wait a few days for the results of that before I book another separate flight to Canada. It all seemed a little bit too complicated, I think. So I went with Cathay Pacific, and I'm glad I did. I actually flew on I would say the last flight with Cathay. The day after I booked my flight directly on Cathay Pacific, what happened was the Hong Kong government came out with very, very restrictive guidance for their international flight crew that are coming back to Hong Kong. So starting on February 20th, is that all the international flight crew returning to Hong Kong, they had to 2-week quarantine and then be on another 1 week of medical alert after their duty from an international destination before they could go out on another flight to an international destination. So this was a huge deal for the flights, because I don't know how an airline or a company would be able to fly pretty much once there and back their whole crew, and then having to come back and pay for their whole crew to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then pretty much pay for another week for the, being on medical alert. It's just not feasible. Cathay actually took a couple days after this announcement from the Hong Kong government to see how this would affect their flight schedules. So all their flights starting February 20th, 2021, they have cancelled or suspended every single flight from Auckland, New Zealand, Perth, Australia, as well as Melbourne and Brisbane in Australia. And they're pretty much only flying from the Oceania region to Hong Kong now from Sydney. It's not even that frequent. End of January 29th, in the coming weeks, there was going to be a mandatory 3-day hotel quarantine in specific cities. And this would be charged at the traveler's expense. They were predicting it was going to be about upwards of over $2,000 Canadian for 3 days of quarantine, which is quite a bit, but I would expect that not just the hotel itself, but you're paying for like the food that's coming over, the security, the public health workers, the safety of them and the cleaning. You're actually paying for like extra staff members, and even having this COVID test, it was already a couple hundred. So I can see that it could easily add up. With this announcement, I pretty much tried to book a flight almost right away, and it wasn't very clear, I guess, what the exact date was that they would be ready for the mandatory hotel requirement. I wasn't sure how the hotel quarantine and the controls were going to work. I travel quite a bit, and usually I book flight with third parties just because you can get the points. There's some incentives, sometimes there's a discount, but this one I booked directly with the airline just because I didn't know if they were going to change anything or cancel anything. They could contact me directly and I could deal with them directly. Entry into Canada, they accept a couple methods. The most common are the PCR COVID test, also called, I guess it's called polymerase chain reaction test, and then an RT lamp test. I'm not sure how the RT lamp test is conducted, but this PCR test, it's like the gold standard of COVID testing apparently, but it was also the gold standard, I guess, in pricing. It probably ranged from about $175 US up to $215 to $230 US, depending on where you went. They're all about in the same range. Some were a little bit cheaper than others, but some were a little bit more pricier because they were open 7 days a week, or they're open even on the public holiday. So I never had a COVID test, so I didn't really know what to expect. There was like a bench or a seat out in this big outdoor tent. It's totally separated outside from the rest of the building or the clinic. And then the nurse put on all this protective equipment. It was almost like a hazmat suit, it seemed like, and gloves. This swab for the COVID test, this PCR test, it was kind of like they were trying to touch my brain through my nose. I wouldn't say it was bruised, but you could kind of feel like a little impression on one side of your nostril for the next like 1 or 2 hours after the test. But my testing results, they said that it was probably going to take about 24 to 48 hours to get the results. I did receive the results the next day in the morning, so it was actually much quicker. It was even within, I guess, 20 hours of taking the swab. When I got the results, I was a little bit confused about, because I thought it had to be within the 72-hour magic window, which started right when they take the swab. But the results, it had the date that my COVID test was taken, but not the exact time. I found out after that, I think I read on another government website for Canada that it was okay just to have the date and not necessarily the exact time that you took that COVID test. I was a little bit confused at the beginning because it just said COVID not detected. Did it mean that it was, did I test negative? Or was there a problem with the testing mechanism that they didn't detect anything, or they couldn't, from my test kit, they couldn't actually find a clear result, you know? So I was confused for a little bit, but a couple hours later, I did get an email from the New Zealand Ministry of Health saying that I did test negative, so that was reassuring.
International arrival. No one arriving because they go straight to quarantine.
Okay, so international departures just opened up. When I got here, I think it opened up at 1, but when I got here, the gate was completely closed and nothing is open at all. None of the stores are open. It is a total ghost town over here at the international terminal. I think I'm gonna go through even the food court. It's all shut down. My beloved KFC, all shut down. No KFC for me before I leave New Zealand. So time to go through immigration, mask up, and then go through security, and we'll be on the other side. So I talked to the lady just at the, I guess, the boarding check gate, and she says nothing, there's no shops or anything open inside once you pass security and departure from New Zealand. So if you want even a coffee or anything like that, you have to get it here on the air, like I guess the land side of the terminal, because there's toilets and there's like a more comfortable seating area, but boarding's not for another like hour and a bit. So I think I'll have a little walk around maybe. It is completely dead and completely quiet. I've never seen International Auckland Airport like this, but I think we are the first flight of the day, and it is 3 p.m., the first flight of the day from a major international airport. Okay, this hallway, it is completely empty. It used to be like a full-on duty-free, like all this is duty-free shopping before you leave to departure from New Zealand, but it's all closed now. Get the fish, but it's not bad. It's like a steamed fish with mashed potatoes. And they gave me this knife. I think it's only meant for, right-handed people. It's not the greatest. I'm supposed to like butter my bread out, I guess. Like for left-handed people, a little bit of a fail. But that's okay. Yeah, the groove is made so your thumb goes here, and then you're supposed to like get the butter like this, I guess, if you're left-handed. Yeah, I don't know. Favorite flavor, but still good ice cream. Movenpick ice cream for the last time. Bye, New Zealand. Okay, so landed at Hong Kong International Airport. This is a pretty big major airport, and it's not that busy at all. I think we went through like tons and tons of movators or escalators to get to this other gate. Had to get another temperature check, same in Auckland, so they checked my temperature. Last time it was like 36.3. I don't know about this time, but I was in range, so it got passed. There's a lot of cleaners, which is really good, and even
Like, I think in front of every toilet, there's like at least 1 or 2 people just standing in front of the toilet, waiting to clean the washroom area, which is awesome. This whole time, I only see at this huge hub of an airport. I know it's at night, but there's only one little magazine shop that's selling like potato chips. That's the only thing that is open at this huge, gigantic airport. Okay, so there's like 10 or 12 flights on the board, and being Hong Kong International Airport, usually the whole board, like all the panels are full, but there's only like 10 flights on the board that are active, even going into tomorrow morning, and then like 3 or 4 of them are actually cancelled, so that's like a quarter of the flights even on the board are already cancelled. The last flight, the staff were very, very proactive, I think, on the upkeep of wearing my mask. I think like I just finished my ice cream and they're like already on my case about putting the mask back on after one of the meals, which is, I guess, is a good thing, right? Okay, so we just landed in Vancouver International Airport. What a beautiful, beautiful airport. Last flight of the evening for international arrivals. We just had a passport check right at the gate. They're just checking people's access to entry to Canada as a pre-check. And then now we're gonna go through immigration and customs as well. I'm really lucky. I'm from Vancouver. So Canada, it's one of the 4 airports right now that you can fly into starting February 4th, 2021. Some other people in the flight, they even have another flight to Toronto even after this, after going from New Zealand to Hong Kong to Vancouver. Just gonna take my private vehicle and then get to my self-quarantine place for the next 2 weeks.
Lucky enough, my brother picked me up at the airport, left me the vehicle so I could drive back, and then he took, actually, so that we were social distancing, he took the train home. And then he dropped me off sushi. And then I can't wait for sushi. I've been waiting for this. And I think he got me double order of sushi. This is awesome. All sashimi. Vancouver sushi, I miss you. Oh. Salmon sashimi, get in my belly. Yeah, self-quarantine's okay. I'm okay. My name's Anne, and thank you so much for watching and joining me on how I entered in Canada, traveling internationally during mid-February 2021. This is probably going to be my first video up. I travel quite a bit, so what my interests are kind of travel, food, and FIRE. FIRE being more on the financial independence, retire early. So if you're interested in any of those kind of videos, let me know in the comment or hit the like button, and we'll see you next time. I don't know if I'm gonna go outside too much after this quarantine. New Zealand has like 3 new cases in the community in the whole country, and then the whole Auckland region goes into lockdown. British Columbia, this province, we have like 400 to 500 new cases a day, and then we just carry on. Let's try harder. It might take quite a while.